Hello, my name is Leah. I'm a clinical psychologist and founder of PsyCaps. We make fun and evidence-based mobile mental health games. Today, we're remembering our strengths. In times like these, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed or powerless. But if we remember our strengths and we focus on what we're good at, we can relight the fire that keeps driving us forward so we can excel and come back stronger.
Joining me today is Simon Alexander Ong, award-winning life executive coach, business strategist, and public speaker. Simon, thank you so much for joining us today on day 7 of our 14-day resilience challenge.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Is there anything you can tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so I went through a journey over the last 10 years, evolving from being an employee to an entrepreneur, and through that process, went through some fantastic moments of self-discovery that have allowed me to embark on this journey to show people what's possible, to guide them towards what their natural strengths are, so that they can pursue a life that is not just fulfilling, but a life in which they can have positive impact in the lives of others.
That sounds really good. And I think right now it's on point of what people need to kind of like not just grow for themselves, but see how they can have a positive impact on their surroundings. I would say that right now we're probably in an unprecedented time where almost everybody is somehow stressed. What do you do to cope with this very unusual situation?
I couldn't agree with you more. It's a challenging, uncertain, strange time. But I think what we do have in our power is the ability to choose one thought over another at any given moment. What we have the power to do is to choose our response to that event. It's why the same event can be positive for some, negative for some. So one of the strengths that I embrace in situations like this is that energy and optimism. And that is developed through focusing on that which we can control. And when we dwell on that which we can't control, we become paralyzed by overthinking. But when we focus on what we can, we become energized to take action.
When you're saying it, it makes so much sense. But at the same time, most of us don't do that, right? So I guess it's a bit of a talent, not just to discover it in yourself, but be able to communicate in a way that other people understand and then that they get the tools to be able to actually implement your advice. When did you discover that you have this talent to be able to translate finding your power and give that to other people?
For me, it's really my own journey. It was testing what I was learning on myself. It was journaling, raising my awareness about my own thinking, about how I was thinking and how I could get better answers. And as you say, a lot of this stuff is simple, but we don't embrace it or apply it. That is because we don't take the time to reflect on some very important questions. One of the things I always say to my clients and audiences is that if you want better answers, you've got to ask better questions. When we are faced with events and experiences that we can't control, a great way to reframe it could simply be by asking ourselves the question, what else could this mean? Once we begin asking ourselves that question more, we realize that there are multitudes of ways that we can view the same event. And simply by understanding the power of perspective, it allows us to see the same thing through new eyes.
Do I hear a little bit of the philosophy of non-attachment in there as well? So that if something happens, be it really good or really bad, by not attaching yourself to it, you give yourself more freedom?
Definitely. Often what happens is we have a goal that we're so rigidly stuck to, that it has to happen this way, that these steps have to happen, that we become blind to other opportunities because of the rigidity we have to achieve one particular goal. But when we have that idea of what we're working towards and we put it to one side and we're open to how we get there, but we trust ourselves that it will happen, but you're not attached to how and when. You just at a deeper level know it will, and then you just focus on what you can do in the moment. Because no one truly knows where we will be in the next week, the next month, let alone even the next 5 years. As long as we are better, even by 1% than who we were yesterday, that is progress. And that should be the only person we compare ourselves to, is who we were yesterday.
I love that. That's very promising and uplifting, that just like there's so much potential that all of us can tap into. And that kind of leads me to my next question. So moving from an employee to becoming a self-employed life coach, Can you help us understand of how you found that spark of strength to make that change?
I think it was probably, looking back now, it was a series of sparks. It's the same way when we think about finding our purpose in life. You don't wake up one morning and you go, yep, this is exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And what I learned is that it's usually a series of events. It's usually you build yourself towards an understanding of what your purpose is. In the same way with my spark, it started off very, very small, if you will, like a small fire. And as I started to explore it, that fire began to grow and grow and grow until it consumed my entirety. And I think what was important about growing that spark was trusting in my curiosity. Deep down, we all know what is it we are good at. What is the natural gifts, talents, and skills we were born with that no other individual was. And that is what makes us unique. And so I followed my curiosity. I started learning. I started reshaping my environment. And I think that's something we don't give enough credit for, is that environment is the invisible force that shapes our life. And by reshaping that further increased my spark, that further increased my motivation and desire to pursue that and follow through. Because I think we can be so great at starting something, but where most fall down is following through.
I think one of the things that the Resilience Center that helped create this 14-day resilience challenge always brings up is saying there are two types of resilience. And one is being rugged, having the attitude and the mindset and being able to have inner resilience. But the second one is really resources, how to change your environment, how to have the people in your life have a huge impact on your mental well-being. Because I come across a lot of people that are kind of trotting through life and they feel a little bit empty and they feel like something's missing. Is there anything that you could help someone here sitting here saying, I want to have that curiosity, I want to have that path, but I don't know what to do with my life, how to get there?
But there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first one is, in order to explore our curiosity, we must first feel energized. And so one of the first things to think about is, how can you elevate your energy? How can you feel more inspired yourself to do the things that you've always wanted to do? And when we think about reshaping our environment, that is a great place to start, because every next level of our life demands a different us. So if we always do what we've always done, you're never going to break out of that pattern. And one of the things I did when I was making that transition, because I'm not going to lie, that transition was hard, and I had no idea how challenging that would be mentally. But what I did is getting different books, reading different magazines, reading different books, listening to podcasts or listening to audiobooks that would educate me. And what that does is it starts to change your perspective. It starts to make you realize that things are possible. It's the same thing when we talk about rest. It's far better for your productivity to get sufficient rest than to sleep for just 3 hours, because you're never going to be as productive as if you had sufficient rest. And I think the next part is also embracing an attitude of gratitude, because what that does is it shifts your mind to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, to realize that actually you have much more resources than you give yourself credit for. And I think especially with these circumstances we're in at the moment, it's giving us newfound gratitude, things that we can be grateful for that we took for granted. So sometimes slowing down in order to speed up can help energize us and remind us just how strong we really are.
We've been talking about all these things that we're good at and finding our strength and our direction and everything, but there are certain things that we will never be good at. And how do we discover them? And then once we've discovered them, how do we deal with our weaknesses?
So 3 things. First, at a high level, I think it's more important to focus on that which we are strong at. If we think about the Olympics, Michael Phelps doesn't practice or work on getting better in his running or his high jumping or his marathon running, because his strength is in swimming, and that's what he dominates in that sport. However, it can be important to understand what our weaknesses are so we can improve them, especially if it influences and affects other people, because not all of us are training to be athletes at the Olympics. So on my second point, journaling, I think, is an important activity. The aspect of learning more about ourselves, reviewing our progress each day, reflecting on questions such as, what went well today? What did I learn? What did I fail at? What could I do better? Because the more we understand about ourselves, the greater our awareness becomes as to where we can improve, what we're doing well, and what needs more attention. The third thing is feedback, so that you can understand how you appear to other people. Because so often we don't know what we don't know. And so with feedback, we get greater understanding and awareness about the impact and influence of what we say and do on other people.
Sounds really good. And at the end of the day, I think knowing your weakness, it's not even a weakness. It's maybe something that you're just not that good at, right? But knowing it and being able to work around it or with it and have other people come in to kind of like balance that out, is the way forward. You don't have to be able to do everything, right?
Totally. And I think as we get to know more about our weaknesses through that awareness, we can choose how we manage it or how we respond to it. We might want to outsource it. We might want to work with someone who's better at that. If you look at some of the greatest companies in the world, they weren't built by one person. They were built by two or more people because they understood they had to have a complementary skill set because they weren't good at everything. And so understanding our weaknesses allows us the opportunity to decide how we can manage that. Who do we need in our team? Who do we need to learn from? How can we outsource it? And that is where knowing our weaknesses can help us become better.
We're coming to an end, but I know there are a lot of people out there that could use that like push of positivity or energy that you say is your talent. Is there one last message that you could give along to our viewers?
Sure. I want people to take a moment to not just look at how far they've got to go, regardless of what journey you're on. Don't always focus on how much further you have got to go. Take a moment and reflect on just how far you have come, the challenges you have overcome, the strengths that you've demonstrated, things that you didn't imagine that were once possible but have now been possible. Take a moment to reflect on that journey itself, just as much as the journey ahead. And give yourself a pat on the back, because guaranteed you are doing a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
Agreed. Very good. Thank you so much for coming, and I wish you a beautiful rest of the week and stay safe.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Just to summarize, it's really important for our resilience to remember our skills and our strengths and know that we've actually got it in us and that we're able to show it on a day-to-day basis. For today, why not write a list of all the things you're good at, that you've been good at in the past and that you know that you're good at, and then find out ways to be able to prove it and show it to your friends, your family, online, to your community in general. There will be ways that you can show your strengths. If you want to have access to the full exercise, please find it on our website. The link is in our bio. Thank you so much and stay safe.